It is Let's Talk Arts and Entertainment on WMAY. Well, got some live performances coming back. The Levitt Amp Festival. That is that of course, like many things, had to be postponed last year, but it is back starting on Thursday, and I'm very lucky to have one of the people who will be performing at the Levitt Amp Festival with me. I am joined by Soultru. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Just got off work, so I'm hanging out now.
Nice, very good, very good. So you will be coming in, and you were coming in to play at the Levitt Amp Festival. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and the type of music you do, and where you're from, and how you got into doing music, everything.
All right, yeah, easy enough. My real name's Terrence Banks. I perform under the artist name of Soultru. I've been doing that for, let's see, I'm 33. So, uh, performance-wise, maybe about 10 years, a little bit longer. I had the name. I was like, okay, when I'm older, I think I'd like to be, a performing artist, like I remember American Idol came out when I was in high school and stuff. So I was like, all right, that'd be cool to do something like that or whatever. And, never tried out or anything, but I pursued music. I was in choral music up from, elementary school all the way through high school. And then I didn't go to college at all after because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Started writing poetry, probably like 7th, 8th grade. And then one day I was like, oh, poems are just, they're lyrics, but lyrics are sung instead of spoken word form. And I'm from Davenport, Iowa, which is a part of the Quad Cities, which is the border of Iowa and Illinois. Well, not the whole border, but on the border. We're right off the Mississippi, so that splits us, the two states. Quad Cities is a really cool spot. Probably like, just under maybe 500,000 people in the area, so pretty solid population of people and plenty of things to do. Let's see, what else should I talk about? Genre-wise, I like to call it. It depends on the show. Like usually I've been playing live with my acoustic, and most of the time there's a duo, but not this time. There's usually myself and then Cadence David Graham, who plays piano primarily at our shows, but she can also play guitar, bass, drums. Like she's very multi-talented when it comes to music. But yeah, this show it'll just be me, my acoustic guitar, and then I'll probably do a few backing tracks. When I do my backing tracks, it's more like soul hip hop vibe. But then with my Avery, you gotta calm down, buddy. Sorry, my lady runs a daycare, so you're probably hearing
That's cool.
in the background.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty chill. But yeah, when tomorrow though, I'll have my acoustic and my laptop. But with my acoustic, it's more like I guess acoustic soul music. And it's more, a little bit more laid back than I guess the instrumental tracks will be, but more singer-songwriter type stuff. Genre-wise, like when it comes to my sound, I get a few different things. Like people definitely know I have a gospel background from like growing up in church. I mean, that's where my love for music kind of came about for me. And like one of my uncles actually used to not live, but he used to sing lead in church. But I was going towards we have family in Springfield. I think my grandpa was born, I think somewhere in Arkansas, and then when their family moved up north, I believe they ended up staying in Springfield. And then at some point, my grandpa, came through the Quad Cities and decided to live here. But yeah, my uncle was doing the lead in church back when I was in elementary school and stuff, and that always stuck with me. And from then on, I just was just so, I don't know, captivated by music that it was just like it was always something I was always singing and just even if I didn't play an instrument, which I hadn't done for a very long time. So like the last few years, I've been forcing myself to actually stick it out with guitar. So I'm gradually getting better at that.
Nice. Very cool.
some of the people I like to listen to are like, I don't know, like Gavin DeGraw is probably my favorite vocalist that's like in the mainstream. Definitely sometimes still listen to a lot of gospel music like John P. Key, like Fred Hammond, Smokey Norfolk. Those are some of my favorites in the gospel realm. But as far as like other genres that I kind of feed off of, well, I listen to all genres, but for my vocal range and the idea and like genre I want to fit in is kind of a like a soul pop area. And then from there, it's just like we'll have variations of different genres and stuff from there too. But that's more of the pocket, like the One Republic types and like the Alan Stone. If anyone knows who Alan Stone is, he's getting up there, so people are starting to know more about him. But he's got like this. I like to tell people he's like a mixture of like Stevie Wonder and like at times like Justin Timberlake, and it's like one of the perfect mixes because it's like you just hear the guy and you're just like, there's the Stevie Wonder, and then he'll hit these falsetto notes, and you're just like, it's this. I don't know. It's different, but in the best way.
That's great. Oh, that's super cool. That's great stuff. All right. So you got so as I gotta wonder with your live performing, have so during this past like about a year and a couple months here, have you been consistently like performing? Has I mean I guess the beginning of pandemic and everything. I don't know how everything probably went down, but how have you been performance wise? How have you been doing this past year, and how has it been getting back into performing?
Oh man, like I was blessed and lucky to, like I've like especially the last like 5 years, I've just started to like branch out like bigger artists that I've opened up for and stuff. Like I've gotten to know some of them pretty well, and so like every time they've passed through, they've either like connected me with another artist that they brought through town with them on tour, or like or other people. They're like, hey, my friend's looking for a singer, and this person is like a bigger artist than I am, but here exchange numbers, or here's his email address, hit him up and stuff. But that's helped me a lot just because it's it's opened other doors, like even doors that I didn't even know were there. It's just like, oh, hey, my friend runs this podcast, and they're doing like live streaming to raise funds for this venue. Be down to do that, and I'm like, of course, like anything to perform music, because I got, it was one of those like the show must go on the best you can. You just have to figure out, okay, well, I can't do live shows, so what can I do? And I was blessed to keep getting opportunities to do live streams. Um, and then a lot of the time, well, I mean, I didn't have a lot of downtime because I was at that point I was driving for FedEx still, and when pandemic hit, we went to 6 days a week, and we were working five, and then kind of FedEx kind of used that opportunity to keep us working 6 days a week. So it was pandemic, 6 days a week, and then even when things kind of went from people being frustrated and worried about not having the items they thought they needed, to where people stopped ordering online as much. It was still 6 days a week, and then Christmas came around, and you're just like, oh man, there's just not a break, is there?
Yeah.
And then I ended up pulling my back, pulled a muscle,
Oof.
which I did that last April too, and it was such a I don't know, learning experience, I should say, because there was just a lot of drama behind all of it, just because there was, I had to actually quit a job at the same terminal just to, try and get myself sane, because the first time I pulled my back, wasn't anyone else's fault really. It was just my trucks weren't being loaded correctly, or at all. So I was doing extra work that I wasn't getting paid to do, and my body was just like, you can't be doing all this, But
Yeah.
you got to fight through it. Then I left, and once the second time around it came, I was like, hey John, I think it's just a good time for me to just call it quits, because I'm 33, and I'm not trying to have back problems the rest of my life, So I'm gonna be working at a hotel part time, and they'll be working around my music, which is the perfect job, because a lot of people don't have jobs that that'll work around music scheduling. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, it was kind of crazy because last March when pandemic started, I was I was out east on a So Far Sounds tour, and I was in New York. I think when I was in New York, I had two shows there, and the second day, they had people that had COVID, but it was like nothing like what it turned into. Like I think um like we were just getting information. No one was wearing masks yet. I think people were starting to do the elbow shaking and greeting thing.
Yeah.
We weren't really social distancing yet. We were just because we didn't have much information to go off of at that point. Um, but yeah, I was in line at the Wendy's the day before the second show, and lady in front of me, I think one of her relatives worked for like one of the local school boards. I was near, where was I? I'm not sure about where New York, like parts of like New York. Like we were like maybe a couple miles from Madison Square, or not Madison Square Garden, but Times Square. Um, so people that know New York, they'll know where roughly we are. And we were at a Wendy's, and I'm in line, and I got my luggage that I usually bring my merch in because it's easy because it's got the wheels, and then I'm in line, got everything, about to order, and the lady in front of me, she's like, yeah, they're closing schools down and this and that, and she's going into detail about stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which it was like, it was one of those things we kind of knew that type of stuff was coming, we just didn't know when. But it was like, I'm from Iowa and I've never been to New York before, and I drove out there by myself and everything, so I'm like in this whole new area of a place I've never been, inexperienced, and we have this thing that not many people have dealt with this sort of type of pandemic to where it's something brand new to most of society. And so I was kind of just had a moment. I'm like, okay, let me order my food and just get out of this building, because at that moment I was just like, even though there weren't even, I mean, it wasn't actually all that busy inside, but I was just like, okay, like if this lady's saying this, like now I'm getting a little flustered. So then
Yeah.
I went to the show, and I was starting to get a little tired. Like, just there was a lot of traveling because I went to DC, and then I stayed in DC, and then I drove up to Philly for a show and drove back that night. And then, I mean, which it was only like a couple-hour drive or so. Stayed with the friend there, left that next morning, drove to New York, and then I think I had a day off, and then I had the two New York shows.
All right.
And
Well,
then but yeah, that show we ended up, and it was crazy because I was talking to some of the people at the show afterwards, and I think they were from like Australia, I think it was, because they were talking about wanting me to come sing at their wedding or whatever.
oh wow.
And trust me, it caught me off guard. I was like, they're like, hey, would you come sing at our wedding? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, where are you guys? And I knew they had accents, but I'm used to people having accents but living in America. They're like, oh, Australia, and I'm like, oh. I mean, yeah, if you'll pay for me to get there and stuff. I mean, you don't even really have to pay me. I would come,
Oh,
if
that's
you pay for me
awesome.
to get there and everything. She's like, yeah, we'll do all that and stuff. And then like her husband, like he came over and we were chatting a little bit, and then he gets a phone call, and then it was one of those things like you knew he was a somebody because it was like we weren't eavesdropping. He was like, there was really no one in the room. And it
Yeah.
was like one of those things. It wasn't obviously like a secretive conversation on the line. Plus, it's like he obviously works one of those. Like he must have been like a reporter, or maybe someone that's like higher up in, I don't know, the health department or something. Because it was
Right.
just one of those situations where because he was talking about COVID, or something to deal with the pandemic, and it was just like all three of us were still standing there, kind of just talking, and we kind of all just kind of looked at each other like, oh, okay. Like, and I mean, you could kind of just hear it in his voice, and you could, from what he was saying. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, these people have money, but I'm like, I probably don't want to know the stuff that this guy has to know about this already.
All right. Yeah.
And I think actually where we were at in New York was only it was like 12 miles from where they say, you know, the first confirmed case in New York was. I think it was like the lawyer at a synagogue or something like that. And like we were, because I was like, I Googled it. I'm like, okay, so where's this at compared to where you know, the show is? Because I'm like, my mind mentally, I'm like, oh, how far are we? And I'm like, oh, 12 miles. That is not far at all. Like, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's in New York, so I'm like, you know, it's like there's people just walking round about, you know, and we don't know this, we don't know anything about it. So I'm like, okay, there's millions of people just walking these or whatever the numbers are. I'm like, yeah, um, I'm glad I'm leaving tonight.
Yeah, that's must have been a really, really interesting experience there. So,
It's one
yeah,
of those ones you
that's
don't forget ever.
yeah, no, that's wild. So yeah, so you are going to be here in Springfield on Thursday. Now, if people are watching this or listening to this after your performance on Thursday, how are people able to follow you to make sure they get up to date where you're going to be, what you're doing with your music? Where can people, website, Facebook, anything like that?
Yeah. Well, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter pretty often. If you look up Soultru, Soultru, all one word, it should pop up on all those three social medias. Otherwise, just go to Facebook and then type in Soultru, and then there should be. I post pretty frequently across all of them, so there should be links to find me elsewhere. Um, Otherwise, we have music up on Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Music. Most streaming sites we have music up on. We have music up on Bandcamp as well. Um, we do have a website, Soultru. Oh, what is it? I can't think right now. Soultrumusic.com, I believe it is.
Okay.
Trying to think if I'm missing any other. Also, check out the record label we're on. It's called The Record Machine, and they're in Kansas City. There's a ton of artists on there, but you can probably find all, you know, the right directions to get to me there as well. I know that's probably a good amount of information for you all out there. And then, yeah, if you're at the show tomorrow, just come talk to me, and you know, I love to meet new people. So.
All right, wonderful. Well, best of luck tomorrow. Break a leg, all of that,
Thank you.
and hopefully talking again sometime soon. Soultru, thank you so much for joining me on this segment. Talk
Not a
again
problem.
soon. All
Talk to you
right,
later.
talk to you later. So let's talk arts and entertainment on WMAY.